Utsahan nischayat dhairyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritte shadbhir bhakti prasidhyati. So, Utsahan is enthusiasm, Nishchaya is confidence, Dhairya is patience, Tattat Karma Pravartana is doing various favorable activities for devotional service, Sangatyaga is giving up bad association, Sataha Vritte is actually following in the footsteps of previous great acharyas. So these six things, Shadbir, these six things will help one's make one devotional service successful. Prasidhyati becomes successful. Bhakti. One's devotional service becomes successful if these six things are followed. So we will see the translation. There are six principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service: being enthusiastic, endeavoring with confidence, being patient, acting according to regulative principles such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna, abandoning the association of non-devotees, and following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These six principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. So again, just getting these six terms clear, because this whole class is going to be based on these six terms. So let's spend some time getting these words into our heads. Utsaha is actually enthusiasm. Nishchaya is confidence. Dhairya is patience. Tat karma pravartana is performing various favorable activities for devotional service. Sangatyaga is giving up bad association. And Sato Vritte is following in the footsteps of the great acharyas. So we pronounce it like Utsaha, Nishchaya, Dhairya, Tat karma pravartana, Sangatyaga, and Sato Vritte. So I'll be using these terms regularly throughout the class. So first we are going to see what is the relation between the verse 2 and the verse 3, because as an author, Srila Rupa Goswami has only written 11 verses in this book. So there is a flow of thought. So we will explore the flow of thought. Last week also we explored what is the relation between verse 1 and verse 2. Verse 1 actually gave the urges which sometimes come up, but verse 2 is the lifestyle by following which we will have the ability to actually control those urges when they actually show up once in a while. So here, the verse 3 is an extension of the same flow of thought. So if you see here in the screen, it's on the towards my left, it's the six faults to be given up, which is Atyahar, Prayasa, Prajalpa, Niyamagraha, Janasanga, and Laulyam. So these six things needs to be given up. So as an author, he first states the problem, the six things to be given up. But in Krishna consciousness, most of the times, how do we give up things? What is the attitude of a devotee that we saw in the preface? What is the kind of how do we give up bad things in Krishna consciousness is by replacing it with positive habits. So in line with that particular principle of giving positive alternatives for the practice of Krishna consciousness, Srila Rupa Goswami gives the six favorable items by following which naturally we will give up the six faults that he states in the verse 2. As Srila Prabhupada, like being very compassionate, he always writes the solutions right in the place where the problems are given, because he's not sure who's going to open the book and read. So he makes sure under the text 2 also, he gives the solutions for those faults, which the author is giving in the next verse in an indirect way, in a direct way. So Srila Prabhupada has already given certain solutions for each of those problems like Atyahar, Prayas. So now we will see how those things can be addressed in a direct way. And these six things are here: Utsaha, Nishchaya, Dhairya, Tatat Karma Pravartana, Sanga, Tyaga, and Sato Vritte. If you see Atyahar, as we saw, it is either overeating or over accumulation. That means there is, as we say, if you use the word greed in this context, like wanting to amass a lot, that means there is so much wanting more. That is, if it is actually reflected in the proper way in devotion service, that will be utsaha, enthusiasm for doing more bhakti, more chanting or more hearing or more service, wanting to be more with Krishna. So wanting to do something more for Krishna, connecting to Krishna. So that same feeling of atya, which causes atyahar, can be dovetailed in devotional service, And when it is doubted, it actually is called as enthusiasm. So you see, when devotees are new, sometimes you can clearly see they want to read a lot, they want to know a lot, they want to do a lot in relation to bhakti, because that is actually enthusiasm. So the same feeling where in material life, when applied to material things, that becomes atyahar. When it is applied in spiritual life, is called as enthusiasm. So if we feel not so interested in spiritual life, that means we are lacking that enthusiasm. And the next, the prayas, which is when directed towards material things, is called as over endeavor, because there is no confidence that I'll have enough in the future. I need to have more just to feel secure. But rather, as a devotee, I earn and do as much as necessary to maintain my life, and some savings for emergency for the future. But at one point, if it is actually encroaching my ability to practice Krishna consciousness, then I actually give priority also to spiritual life, having the confidence that Krishna will take care of me. So that is nishchaya, that I do everything necessary for my life, how to conduct my regular life. Still, I have the confidence that by giving enough time for spiritual life and balancing both material and spiritual duties, Krishna will protect me. So, this confidence that Krishna will protect me is called as Nishchaya. And prajalpa is useless speech. Croaking of the frogs, Prabhupada is giving. So if you just imagine as a person just loosely keeps talking, looks at anything and then makes a comment, it's actually restlessness also. That internal restlessness comes out as a constant chatter, like it's just like being restless. On the other hand, the opposite quality is dhairya, is patience also. You can also call it gravity. Dhairya is like having certain gravity. So when you have gravity, you're not just loose in your speech. You speak what is necessary, and you hold a certain amount of gravity as a devotee. So that gravity is because there is patience. There is like, okay, you think twice before saying something or doing something, in a way, in general. So a devotee is actually grave and patient because he's not just restless. He has a cool head to analyze things before doing. That's patience. And niyamagraha is either accepting for the sake of material advancement or rejecting, being lazy about spiritual advancement. But the opposite is doing what is the right thing, how it is prescribed. It's just the opposite of it. Instead of neglecting or accepting for whimsically, we do whatever is prescribed in the way it is prescribed. So that is tat tat karma pravartana, doing the activities prescribed for devotional service in the manner it is prescribed. And janasanga is associating with unfavorable people, and Sangatyaga is giving up that. It's just an exact reflection of that, the opposite. Uh, can I just finish the last quality and take your question, Agape? Yeah. Laulyam, as I said, it could be translated as greed, ardent longing, or fickle mindedness. And if we take the aspect of fickle mindedness, not being fixed in devotional service, going sometimes to this Baba and going to this, sometimes to that Guru, or checking out this Tantra or this mantra, all these things, another constant changing, not having a goal, is Satovrite, following in the footsteps of the previous Acharyas. Choose your Mahajan and stick to them. Invest some confidence, and once you choose a guru and a line and a disciplic succession, you stick to them. You can check out before you actually finalize, but once you take up a certain path of like devotional service, okay, I'm going to be a devotee and being a this is my goal, Krishna Prem is my goal. If you just fix, I'm going to practice this, so then don't have that fickle mindedness of going here there, like being not so steady. So that is why following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas is an antidote to laulyam. Okay, these are my mahajans, these are my actually ideals that I'm going to follow, so these are the people I'm going to follow. We become fixed in it. So that's called as satovritti. So in this way, these six faults can be overcome by following these six prescribed things to practice in devotional service. So this is the way the flow of the book goes. So before I go to the next slide, I can take questions on this. Agape, you wanted to go first?
Yes, Prabhu. So my question is just kind of on the Sanskrit of tut tut. I did look it up on Veda base because I know tut normally means that, but tut tut, it's like that in English, which doesn't make much sense. On Veda base, though, there's like a lot of different definitions for it. So I was wondering if you had a better, a personal understanding of what tut tut could translate to.
Topic comes, so I'm going to specifically address that why it is being said. The various commentaries have it, so we will see that. Yeah. Mother Shameshwari?
So in the same line, tat tat karma, performing prescribed duties, it's the antidote to accepting or neglecting rules, because I'm trying to understand, because is it because, like, rather than using your own mental speculation, you're just accepting what's already been delineated by the acharyas?
And also the way it is, we are expected to perform it, not being neglectful. Say, for example, if I know I have to chant this many rounds, then I chant it. I'm not neglecting it.
Thank you.
Anzalika?
Hare Krishna, this is a very quick question. I just would like to know the definition of Mahajan.
Okay.
I never heard that word.
Just to be short, the previous teachers in the disciplic succession. Yeah. Okay. So the next verse is actually the attitude and behavior. Let me see if I... Okay, here are 6 qualities in this verse which is given. If we have to divide them into 2 categories, attitude and behavior, what do you think comes under attitude? What qualities come under behavior? So anyone can unmute yourself and say if what do you think enthusiasm is an attitude or a behavior?
Behavior.
Behavior, okay. Confidence?
Also behavior.
Attitude.
Attitude.
Oh, sorry. Attitude, correct.
And it's, yeah.
Patience. I'm not saying yes, no to anything. I'm just taking opinions. And then next slide. I'm not going to my personal opinion. It is Bhakti Vinod Thakur's opinion. So I'm so confident what I'm going to say.
I think the first 3 are attitudes and the next 3 are behaviors.
Who said that?
Sakivrinda.
Oh, okay, thank you. That's pretty close to it's exactly what Bhakti Vinod Thakur says.
I
Actually.
co-sign.
So enthusiasm, confidence, and patience are considered as the attitude that one possesses. It's an internal quality, but when it manifests in a certain way. So, but performing prescribed duties needs to be seen externally, actually, in terms of doing certain activities like chanting or hearing. Giving up bad association is also very is a behavior, and following in the footsteps of previous acharyas by not going to different things is also a behavior. That's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur, this is how he classifies. He says enthusiasm, confidence, and patience are 3 attitudes that a devotee should possess, and in behavior they should practice rules strictly and associate with the right people and follow the previous acharyas. That should be their behavior.
I'm sorry, is this a bad time?
No, you can.
Oh, okay. So I mean, I would look at them and say that they could be both, but because your confidence could show up in your behavior, but I think, I guess what they're saying is that the attitude is on the inside and then it shows up on the right side as a behavior, even though they could really both, I mean, your enthusiasm could show up in a behavior, no?
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Every quality is going to show as a behavior, but for sure, it's, say, for example, not every enthusiastic person has to be on the top, like loud or anything like that. Their enthusiasm could be in their heart, actually. They may be chanting quietly 100 rounds. That may be their enthusiasm, how they show. It may not be very visible. So that is why these are considered as attitudes, internal attitudes. Confidence is, I actually have faith in Krishna. It's a feeling, it's an internal conviction, actually. In that sense, they could be seen as attitude, but these definitions are not universal. Yes, like different people
You know
can.
what? It's actually beautiful. That's beautiful. You know what? It's it's beautiful the way it's you just put that. So yeah.
It is actually Bhaktivinoda Thakur's analysis in his commentary, actually. I'm just presenting from there. So that's why I was confident, because I know different people can.
Because you know where it's coming from.
That's it. Okay. So this is how these 6 qualities can be divided as attitudes and behaviors favorable for devotional service. So now we are going to discuss on each of these 6 qualities. So first, I'm going to present what Srila Prabhupada gives in his commentary. If you have the book you want to refer, Prabhupada actually, before getting into the 6 qualities, he speaks about in general devotional service. Last chapter, last verse, if you see, before getting into the topic of Atyahar and Prayasana and so forth, Srila Prabhupada presented an introduction to give how Atyahar actually what leads to Atyahar, like that. He set an introduction. In this verse, he is giving a whole introduction of what is devotional service, because these 6 activities are supposed to increase one's devotional service. So before that, we need to know what is devotional service, so that if we follow this 6, then our devotional service will actually increase. So that's why he gives a whole introduction of what is devotional service for a couple of pages. We call it sutra, an axiom. So Prabhupada writes many statements which are like sutra axioms in this particular purport. The very first statement is like, devotional service is not a matter of sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. Its substance is practical activity. So he is actually giving a like an axiom, like how bhakti is not just about one's sentiment or imagination. It's practically seen. If you have devotion, then you actually do it in a certain way. And he quotes the definition of Srila Rupa Goswami as what is bhakti. So that is what I've written here. BRS is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The first verse quotes that Anya Bilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavritam Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam. It's actually 1111, not 111. And Prabhupada says bhakti is an act of, is a cultivation, is a sort of cultivation, he writes, because it's an activity, it's not an idle meditation. Rather, it's an activity which is done to please Krishna and being favorable to Krishna. What is not bhakti that we saw? It's not a sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. I provided these notes both in the form of a mind map as well as the flow of the purport. So you can refer later also. All these things are there. And Srila Prabhupada mentions how to perform this devotional service. Now we know what is the definition of devotional service. Devotional service is an activity done to please Krishna without any selfish desires, in a favorable mood for Krishna. So how to perform that devotional service? According to Prahlad Maharaj, it is done in 9 ways. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, hearing about Krishna, remembering,
Vandanam, Dashyam.
Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. So all these 9 processes, we practice devotional service according to Prahlad Maharaj. So, okay, can I just start chanting? Can I just start hearing? Yes, that's always good. But Srila Prabhupada says better to hear from proper bona fide sources, and also take the guidance of a spiritual master. Under his guidance, if we practice, then the process is going to be more effective. So he quotes verses from Bhagavad Gita, Mundaka Upanishad, and Chaitanya Charitamrita to emphasize the importance of accepting the process of devotional service through a bona fide spiritual master. And he also, in the course of explaining this, he says why to perform bhakti. So someone may say, why to perform devotion service? He says it's so rare. He quotes the verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva. After millions of lifetimes, the living entity actually gets the opportunity to practice bhakti by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. And it is a blissful process, and it liberates one from the material existence, and moreover gives one love of God. So who can perform means anybody who's sincere at heart can actually attempt to perform, because there are no limitations. It's not a physical process, even though it's also it's an activity. It is said, oh, can someone who's lying on the deathbed perform this activity? Yes. So it is very subtle also, and it is seen very externally also. So its range is very broad, so that it can encompass. A small child who doesn't understand the meaning of the mantra can practice devotional service. Someone who is a great acharya, who understands the meaning of the each syllable of the Hare Krishna mantra, they also are also practicing bhakti. And where to perform? In general association of devotees, and Srila Prabhupada gives ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, that he started, is started for this purpose, to practice devotional service in the association of devotees. This is the purpose of ISKCON. So Prabhupada prescribes ISKCON as a place to practice bhakti. So now that he gave an introduction to what is devotional service in the first few paragraphs, then Prabhupada enters into the actual topic of addressing what is utsaha, what is dhairya, what is nishchaya, like that. So he starts with utsaha. Utsaha, Prabhupada says, utsaha is enthusiasm. And Prabhupada says, why? Somebody may ask, oh, why to be enthusiastic? Is this what to speak of spiritual life? Even in material life, if one wants to be successful, he has to be actually enthusiastic. So everyone needs to be enthusiastic about whatever they are trying to do. And the best thing to do is devotional service. So for that, how much enthusiastic we should be, because it is so rare. It is giving liberation and it is giving love of Godhead. It is such a rare thing. So then how much more enthusiastic a person should be to practice. And in the same relation, in the same topic, he explains what is utsaha. He writes another axiom. He says, endeavor executed with intelligence in Krishna consciousness is called as utsaha. What is enthusiasm? Enthusiasm, as we discussed, if you consider it as an attitude, then it should be shown as a favorable endeavor executed with intelligence. It should not be just sentimental, it should be considered intelligently. And for whom? In Krishna consciousness, for the pleasure of Krishna and the devotees. So endeavors executed with intelligence in the realm of Krishna consciousness is called as enthusiasm or utsaha. So this is the definition that Srila Prabhupada gives. I'm repeating. Endeavor executed with intelligence in Krishna consciousness is called as utsaha. Yes, Mother Indira?
So you're saying this a lot, sentimentality, not to perform it with sentiment, right? Mm-hmm. Can you give us an example of that?
Okay. So, yeah, the word sentiment is also necessary in the path of bhakti, but what kind of sentiment is being spoken here is a very important clarification. Thank you for asking the question. Say, for example, somebody feels misidentifying what is spiritual advancement. Say, for example, I walk into a particular, say I go before the deities, and then I thought like the deities will be dressed today in red, so then they are dressed in red. Okay, it's fine. But if you just make it like, I'm so advanced, so I'm having these interactions with these things. So if there is a substance to it, it's okay. Advanced devotees can have that, but it cannot become a replacement for actually engaging in the processes that Srila Prabhupada has prescribed. Like, I won't chant or I won't do those things because I feel like I'm just like, as soon as I hear kirtan, I'm having tears in my ears, so I don't need to practice anything. All these kind of feelings sometimes we may have. So those things are considered as sentiment. And on the other hand, as soon as in the next moment, we can be actually acting very mundane. So a very super contrast in terms of our things. And when we come in close to bhakti, we feel, oh, it's just like crying, or it's just like emotions or anything like that. That's what Prabhupada is saying. It is done with intelligence, and it is done for the pleasure of Krishna, and there should be an endeavor. Chanting is a lot of effort. And doing this kind of courses, studying, trying to understand what is bhakti, this takes endeavor. So putting this endeavor is actually devotional service. Trying to understand the scriptures given by the previous acharyas, it's an endeavor. We can sing and dance, that is the process, nama sankirtan, But that as we chant more, then the knowledge comes. Who is Krishna? Who am I? What is my relationship with Krishna? What is material world? What is spiritual world? That needs to manifest from proper chanting also. Did I answer your question in some way?
Yes, very well. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yes, Mother Shameshwari?
And just like to confirm what you're saying, like there's like this stigma that bhakti means like the emotional religion. Like my sister married a Punjabi family, and so they practice Hinduism, and that's like their conception is like, oh, like like all like that lovey, like emotional like stuff, like that's bhakti. But it sounds like what you're saying is that, bhakti is an intelligent process that when perfected, it's expressed, or it's seen like through the emotion and through the heart.
True. Many times, especially those who practice Jnana Yoga, if you just search, I'm not recommending you to search, but sometimes I'm just curious, I do that. So if you just search Bhakti Yoga online, what are the definitions that people give would be like, oh, if you are like very highly intelligent and you can handle complicated analysis, then you can follow Jnana Yoga. And if you're a very emotional person, if you're a person of a heart, so then they give me a prescription, you can follow bhakti. Means they tend to put like that. And Srila Prabhupada in one of the bhakti Bhagavad Gita purports also, he actually analyzes that. But if we see, it's not that bhakti has any less knowledge or complicated subject matters to grasp, but that's not about it. It's not just emotion, it's not just intelligence. It's actually done for the pleasure of Krishna, accepting there is a Supreme Lord and I'm a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And my duty is to become a servant of the Supreme Lord. So Krishnera Jivera Swarupahoy Krishnera Nityadas. That the soul is eternally a living a servant of Krishna, and it is infinite smell. Understanding that is actually a devotional service that involves knowledge also. And interestingly, Srimad Bhagavatam says, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chedahaitukam. By practicing this devotion service, naturally knowledge comes up. This bhakti process is so powerful, it can produce knowledge just by its practice, by the chanting, by the singing. Knowledge about Krishna is produced in the heart. And detachment to material things is also produced. That's a sign of intelligence also. Being detached, like say for example, a small child of 2 years old, you give him a chocolate, he will give the $50 bill that he has in his hand. You can exchange for a small candy. But a grown-up person will not give. He knows this candy is probably $1 and what I have is more valuable. He will not give it. So similarly, we hold on to material things as most valuable, and not understanding the spiritual world is much more greater. So to be really intelligent is to develop detachment to the material things which are temporary. So that manifests from the practice of devotion service. Janayati Ashu Vairagyam. Naturally, it gives detachment. That is why it is considered it's a higher process, because in the other processes you have to also practice. Here also you have to endeavor, but ultimately that detachment can come from our attachment to Krishna. I hope I kind of clarified or spoke too much on that. I have a couple of questions. Is Mother Indra, your hands around?
Sorry, it just doesn't go down. Sorry.
First Stacy and then Paresh Prabhu.
I have to lower it.
Stacy, you want to ask?
Hi. No, I just was wanting to say a few of my teachers, one of the things that I had, and Nandura Swami Prabhu, I had said to him, I want to learn, I hear certain people, they can quote, they can take a verse and they know it in Sanskrit and they know the verse, and I feel like I'm never going to be there, and I study and I'm studying and I'm taking courses and I'm reading all this book and that book, and he goes, then you're doing it. Like, you don't have to recite a verse and that makes you, loving Krishna into bhakti. It's you're putting a year of study. You're studying the Ramayana, you're reading the Mahabharata, you're doing all of these things. Those are all things that are, and you're doing them with sincerity. So like you said, but as I'm doing it, I'm learning so much. So it's making me, like you said, making me smarter. It is making me smarter in the the study of bhakti.
Sure. And how you judge if everything is working is my attachment to bhakti and the Krishna and the devotees increasing. That's the thing. And my heart is satisfied and I'm developing natural detachment from material things. That is the test that we need to do on ourselves. If we are doing it right, it should happen. So thank you for sharing. Paresh Bro?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I have two questions. So first question is, in order to do bhakti or devotional service, you don't have to be knowledgeable. But when you start doing the devotional service with one of this enthusiasm or confidence or any of these 6 items, right, you would be able to do the devotional service and advance into the devotional service. Is that my understanding correct? And the second question is,
Okay, let's go one by one. So I didn't get the whole thing. First, you said we need intelligence.
we do not need intelligence for the bhakti, right?
Okay. Yeah, we don't need intelligence in the sense of bookish kind of a scholar, academic scholar. It's not necessary. You need to know a lot of verses or you need to be a scholar to practice bhakti. That's the right understanding.
But then in order to do that, you say that even the small child can perform a devotional service, right? So in that sense, if you can explain me like how actually the devotional service has been performed as compared to the child versus the adult, right? Who has some knowledge or they can go to the book and probably read something and then advance themselves.
So when I say anybody can perform, basically anyone can begin to perform devotional service. To perfect it, it can take certain amount of effort, but the entrance is available for everyone. And the process is actually self-sustaining process. The process gives you that's why I quoted the verse Vasudeva Bhagavati, because just by doing the activity, you will be, if you're as sincere, then Krishna will reveal the rest in the heart, that we can naturally make advancement even without having a regular literacy or anything like that. We see so many cases. Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj was an illiterate by worldly standards, and the example that and his disciple is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who in his early 20s was a chair of the astrological department in an university, and his guru is illiterate in the worldly standard, but he had the real knowledge, because what is that knowledge? Detachment from material things and attachment to Krishna. That's the real standard of knowledge that Bhagavatam is speaking. The general knowledge that we think in this world of having degrees of from the regular universities, that is not considered, that is not being called as knowledge at all. That's the Bhagavatam's knowledge is manifesting as detachment from material things which are harmful for one's advancement in spiritual life and attachment to Krishna. That is actually the sign of knowledge.
That means the activity which you will feel or which will take you to attach to Krishna would take you in advancement of the devotional service.
Yeah. That anybody can start to practice that through chanting and hearing Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. How much we understand is one thing. How much we sincerely apply to that process is another thing. Okay.
Right. And my second question was, because Rupa Goswami has given 6 items. If you just have one of the items, can you advance to the devotional service with one of the items? Or if you can start with one item and rest of them follow?
Yes, they are like not very diverse. They are all related. The best thing is to follow the previous devotees. If you have that one, everything else is also going to come. If you are enthusiastic in devotion service, but if you are not patient, it's going to cause some trouble. There is refined idea why he is giving these 6 qualities separately. However, if you sincerely follow the previous acharyas, then all the other things also will follow. If we have confidence in them, then everything else will come naturally.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So I also incorporated the commentaries. Let's see how much time we have. What is it? What is the time? I'm not able to see in my screen.
It's 3 o'clock.
3, okay. At 3:30, we'll have a break. Before that, we will cover as much as possible. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, if without enthusiasm, what will happen is one will become negligent in his devotional service. If he is not very enthusiastic, oh, like today I'm not feeling so thing about chant, so let me not chant. So he will just not, he'll become neglectful in devotion service, and that will cause offense. So when there is enthusiasm, one can naturally overcome laziness and inertia, which are the causes for inactivity. And he says karma arises from lust to possess many things, jnana arises from indifference, and bhakti arises from faith in the Supreme Lord. Kelly, can I just complete this slide and take your question?
Yeah, I just put it up so I would remember to ask the question.
Sure. I'll just complete this and then I'll take your question. So he says inattentiveness in chanting can be overcome with enthusiasm and devotional service. If I really want to, if I like really think, okay, I need to chant attentively. It's not an alternate. It's not like, okay, maybe all those things. I want to chant attentively and I put the effort. So that is enthusiasm. I take active steps to be attentive in my chanting. So that is a sign of enthusiasm. And he says if somebody is really enthusiastic in devotion service, they can grow from the stage of anishtita to nishta bhajan. That means unsteady devotion service to steady devotional service. The key to going from unsteady practice to steady practice is enthusiasm. And he says if somebody is so unenthusiastic after coming to devotion service, then that lack of enthusiasm can destroy their devotional service, because they are so indifferent. They will surround themselves with distractions, and those distractions can make them deviate. And he says, and utsaha, the word utsaha can mean enthusiasm, or it can mean to cultivate devotional service with care and respect. I really care for my devotional service, so I diligently engage in it. So that is actually a sign of enthusiasm. So this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. Kelly, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, my question is, so when you start devotional service, did you immediately start with enthusiasm, or can you start with like worries and kind of like a low enthusiasm and it builds, or should you just immediately be enthusiastic?
It depends on the association we keep, because enthusiasm is also contagious. When our association is really enthusiastic, we will also, if we are low in enthusiasm and if we have a good association, then we can like kind of develop that enthusiasm from being with those kind of devotees.
Oh, okay. So it's like association with devotees will increase your enthusiasm and like continue.
If we are low in enthusiasm, if you see, that is possible. We are human beings. If we choose to associate with enthusiastic devotees in devotion service, then we can compensate that.
Okay. Thank you.
First Mother Ananya, then Nirali.
So what does it mean by karma, or jnana arises from indifference?
Okay, indifference to material world. I hate this world, this is Maya, and this is suffering. I don't want it. That is the place from which their detachment arises. But the devotee's detachment arises from I love Krishna. It's not about this world or anything. I just want to be with Krishna. So naturally, I am not going to be here if I love in this world, if I love Krishna. So our detachment is a byproduct. But jnana process is built upon that I hate Maya. That's the whole thing is built upon that thought. That is why it is called jnana arises from indifference to the material energy. Does it answer your question?
No, I'm sorry. I'm still not getting it. So this is all in relationship to enthusiasm.
Yes.
So, okay. So karma arises
from love, because I want things, possess things, the enthusiasm in possessing things.
Yeah.
In the jnana, the enthusiasm is I want liberation from this miserable place.
So I thought jnana was knowledge, or
the ultimate goal of the process is liberation.
Ah, okay. Got it.
So Nirali.
So have you, I've heard this said before and tried to apply this a little bit, like fake it till you make it kind of an idea, like the idea of enthusiasm. So when you lack enthusiasm, which I personally do, and so the idea is like, can you talk a little bit on that kind of idea? Because I understand, when you have full faith in the Lord, you have that enthusiasm, but sometimes it's not apparent. It's like our conditioning has kept us behind a little bit.
Yeah, it's a very relevant question. So fake it till make it is like we have heard it many times in the association. So the understanding is we are human beings. Sometimes even though we have faith that this is the best process and Krishna is the Lord of my heart, still we may be attracted to many things, or we may be just like lacking that enthusiasm. So as I said for Kelly, just taking inspiration. So if I know, like I can't just do it by myself, so dragging myself to the association which will actually force me is also a type of enthusiasm. I know I don't have the strength, but at least I'm sincere enough to drag myself and put it in myself, throw myself inside the association where I'll just be lifted. And then I have to catch up, and I have to actually also do. There is no alternative to becoming enthusiastic at the end of the day. But if we lack, we can just be sincere and go to a particular place where we can take inspiration, and then we have to act on that inspiration. There is no alternative to it. We can just always work on borrowed enthusiasm, but there is nothing wrong in taking inspiration.
Thank you.
She is Ananya, you still have your question before I take others?
Oh, no, it was answered. She asked the same question that I had.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. So first Kaylee, then Mother Shilpi. Okay. Kelly, you still want to ask a question?
No, I'm good.
So
the last person that asked the kind of the similar question to me, so that kind of answered it.
So Mother Shilpi?
Yes, Prabhu. So what is the reason our enthusiasm in bhakti goes down? Like, could you elaborate on that? Like, I know attack of Maya and all of that, but internally, is it like our faith isn't strong enough, or we aren't finding that taste in our chanting? Why do we usually often lose enthusiasm in devotional activities?
The whole analysis for this problem of lack of enthusiasm is given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the book Madhurya Kadambini. So the whole idea is actually Asat Trishna. He classifies the reason for not having enthusiasm in devotion service. He calls it as Asat Trishna. Asat is temporary. Trishna is thirst. Having some kind of a thirst for temporary things, gross or subtle, actually reflects as our inability or disinterest in engaging in devotional service. It is like heavy to hear, oh, am I like attracted to Maya or attached to Maya? But on some level, there is some kind of a faith in those things. I wouldn't say lack of faith in devotional service, but we have faith in devotional service, but we also have some kind of conditioning which is coming from many lifetimes, that we have some faith or attraction invested in the material thing. So to get that out, then we need to actually force ourselves to be more enthusiastic in devotional service. Does that answer your question?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Guru.
Angelika?
So I wanted to simply ask, like, how is enthusiasm in relation to kind of like the idea of feeding oneself or like nourishing oneself, in a sense of like having the conviction to, let's say, read, and also how the taste develops. Like, I just want to hear kind of the connection between these two, and whether they can be like equated, like the taste and enthusiasm, and kind of like faith in like stable sadhana. Let's say, like, reading, I think for me really helps me kind of be inspired, at least. And so, like, can that be seen as part of enthusiasm, even if it's also a means of getting enthusiastic and stuff like that?
Yeah, it all feeds in each other. Like, if you are enthusiastic, you tend to read, and if you read, you get more enthusiasm. So it's like a feed loop. So, but somewhere we have to start. Even if we don't have enthusiasm, then we pick up a book, read, we like someone we hear from, we take inspiration. So then we develop that inspiration. So even if we lack, we have to do those things. That is a sign of enthusiasm also. Does it work?
Yes.
So thinking about what you said about being sentimental, would you say that when enthusiasm wanes, that that's kind of like a form of mercy, say, so that you don't become sentimental? Because you have to work for it, right? If I'm enthusiastic all the time, then I might not feel the value of what I'm doing.
Okay. If
Does
you're
that make sense?
all the time, you would not know the value. You can see, like, if you really value something, you will just be enthusiastic also, or you will at least drag yourself. Say, for example, I work, I know at the end of the month, I'll only get a payment if I every day make it to my work. So whether I hate my work or love my work, I drag myself to the job because I know at the end of the month, I need this. So similarly, if I know, okay, I may not today feel like chanting, but I have to chant because I have vowed for it. And if I chant sincerely and nicely, then I'll achieve my end result of achieving love of God. So I understand, okay, I don't feel like chanting. As soon as that feeling comes, no, I'm going to chant nicely. So pushing ourselves and then trying to do something for that. Okay, let me hear something which can give me enthusiasm. Let me speak to someone who can instill thoughts in my brain so that I can become enthusiastic. So pushing ourselves can be considered enthusiasm. It is not a sentiment. Here there is a sentiment of I want to be some or other pleasing to Krishna.
But what I'm saying, like, is if there's value, if there's hard work in what I'm doing, right? If everything comes easy, then maybe not as much value is placed in it, right? So things, life ebbs and flows. So it's those times when I struggle the most that I feel like I get the most out of it. So if maybe sometimes I'm struggling for enthusiasm, it's something that I really want to experience, then I'll be conscious of it. And then, so then I'll value it more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And life, it's going to throw both kind of situations. Sometimes we easily get, sometimes we will not get. And it's all Krishna's mercy. And if we take it in the right attitude, we soak in when it's available, and then remember and endeavor for it when we don't have it. Does it make sense? Ananya?
Prabhu, what does it mean that karma arises from lust?
Okay. Karma here refers to the path of karma, the karma yoga or karma kanda, to be specific also. It's the lust to go to heavenly planets. Oh, I can go to, if I do good karma here and perform this sacrifice and accrue this amount of karma, I can go to heavenly planets and enjoy life there. So that desire is the lust, and that is the motivation of all my activities. Like, I want to come right, I want to do things right, I want to execute this sacrifice, I want to do this ritual, because if I accrue pious credits, I'll go to heaven and enjoy there. So that's the idea. That's why it said karma arises from lust.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, so let's go ahead. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, faith without enthusiasm has no meaning. He says, the word Shraddha is certainly faith. But I say that I have so much faith, but enthusiasm, I don't have enthusiasm in executing devotion service. He says then it does not have so much meaning, because enthusiasm is the life of faith. So many people think they have faith in God, but because they have no enthusiasm, their faith has no meaning. So therefore, due to lack of sadhu sangha, they do not perform devotion service. Out in the world, like in a society like Indian society, if you go, so many people feel they actually love Krishna and they have faith and they have certain kind of love towards Krishna also. They worship and so many things. But because they lack sadhu sangha, they lack proper association, they do not perform devotional service. And so that is why their faith actually does not translate into a lot, because there is no enthusiasm in performing devotional service, because they lack sadhu sangha. So that the indirect meaning is, if we really have enthusiasm, we will keep ourselves in devotional association, which inspires us to perform more devotional service. That's a real sign of enthusiasm. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur on this topic, Utsaha or enthusiasm, he says, indifference to the process of Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, or Karma Kanda, it's actually a sign of enthusiasm for devotion service, because I'm so focused and so absorbed in devotion service, I don't have time for anything else. I don't have time to spend anything to do with Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, or Karma Kanda. I just have lost all inclination to involve myself in those activities. That means I actually have developed some attachment to devotion service. And this is a sign, he says, enthusiastic about the practice of various limbs of sadhana bhakti, like hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna, remembering Krishna, being enthusiastic about those practices indirectly. How that first line manifests in bhakti is because I don't have any attraction to other process, I'm involving all my time in devotional service. And because I'm involving all my time in devotion service, I don't have any interest in other things. Internal and external perseverance in practicing bhakti. See, we all discussed about not having enthusiasm, but here he is saying internal and external perseverance, both, is actually a sign of enthusiasm. I may not be so naturally attracted to Krishna, but I know this is the right thing to do and I push myself to do. So internally and externally. So that is also considered enthusiasm. These are Srila Prabhupada's quotes. I really did not think that it's going to take so much time, so I prepared elaborately, but now I feel like I should just stick to the book. It's already 3:20. We haven't completed one quality also. Srila Prabhupada says, let me drag my screen so I can read this. Yeah, Prabhupada says, if you're actually chanting Hare Krishna, you'll be enthusiastic. So he will say, you feel like, oh, now I'm chanting nicely, I want to serve, I shall serve. That is the effect. Phalena parichiyate means by the fruit, one's activities will be judged. If I'm really chanting nicely, then I'll be enthusiastic. So we have to see by the result. He should be enthusiastic more and more. If someone feels they're chanting nicely, they'll be naturally enthusiastic. He says, Anandam Buddhivardhanam. It increases one's enthusiasm and happiness. The service attitude towards Krishna and devotees will increase. So this is a letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote. He says, determination means enthusiasm or utsaha. He says, how do you see utsaha externally? Enthusiasm, determination. That I will not deter in doing these activities. So that's a sign of enthusiasm. Prabhupada says, I must chant, I must hear. So he says that is necessary. Not that when Krishna is merciful and he wants me to perform devotion service, I'll do. Many people in India, you invite them, please come to temple. He said, whenever the Lord desires, whenever the Lord calls me, I'll come. Hey, Lord is not going to come and call you. He's calling through his devotees. So come. So no, they will not. They'll say, oh, whenever the Lord calls me, I'll come. So that's actually not a sign of enthusiasm. So Krishna is already merciful. But if we do not take it, then what Krishna will do? So Krishna does not touch on your little individuality or little independence. So therefore, we have to push ourselves. Just like when we earn money, we are very enthusiastic. Similarly, if we want Krishna consciousness, if we want to earn that position, go back home, back to Godhead, we must be very enthusiastic, utsahan. So these are the two anecdotes on Srila Prabhupada's notes on enthusiasm. So we have 10 minutes before we go to break. So let's see how much we can cover on Nishchaya, which is confidence. So Prabhupada writes, the Nishchaya in Bhakti, the confidence in Bhakti means it manifests as no confidence in other paths like Karma, Jnana or Ashtanga Yoga. So then suddenly you may say, if someone practices Ashtanga Yoga for the sake of health or job, that is not considered here. What is considered is the liberation that the Ashtanga Yoga process offers. If someone is attached to that liberation, that is called as following that path. So that is the idea here. It's not that if a devotee performs yoga for the sake of exercise, health, or for the sake of a job, oh, then they are actually following another path. Because the yoga that we practice is only one limb. The Ashtanga Yoga has 8 limbs and it has a certain process of liberation also aimed at. So we are not, if we are not attached to that kind of liberation, then we are not attached to that path of yoga. And why we are not attached, we should not be attached, because these paths provide impermanent results. They cause restlessness, sometimes this siddhi or sometimes another siddhi. and can lead to fall down easily because there is no support from Krishna. We are just trying to do it on our own strength. So that is why it can lead to easily fall down. And how it manifests in the positive way is confidence in bhakti is a sign of surrender. Prabhupada writes, Avashya Rakshive Krishna. Krishna will surely protect me. Because we saw how Nishchaya, the confidence, is an antidote to prayas, over endeavor. So because I over endeavor and I want to have more things and more security because I don't know what will happen in the future. But the sign is, if I do the needful and just do the necessary and practice my spiritual life at the same time, then I have the faith that Krishna will protect me. Whatever Krishna does to me is good for my good. Not being irresponsible, we don't have to confuse this confidence as being irresponsible. I will not do my duties, Krishna will protect me. That's not here, it is recommended. We will see that explanation in Tat Tat Karma Pravartanat. We have to do what is necessary to live in this world, that we cannot be neglectful. At the same time, we are not overdoing it. Okay, I'm doing all this. I need to set out certain time for practicing bhakti. And if there is such little loss in the material life because of that, I have faith that Krishna will protect me. So that is Avashya Rakshibe Krishna. Krishna will surely protect me and give me help for the successful execution of devotional service. And if I really endeavor properly, I know Krishna will take care of me and give me the success of devotional service. So that is called confidence. We don't need to be continuously paranoid. Oh, am I advancing? Am I advancing? All we have to do is put the right things in the way it is prescribed. Then naturally the advancement will come in the form of stability in devotional service first, and then bhava and prema. Yes, Paresh Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In this context, confidence and faith is same, or is it different?
If you see the 6 limbs of surrender, there is, accepting what is favorable for devotion service, rejecting what is unfavorable for devotion service, and having this faith that Avashya Rakshive Krishna. Yes, that confidence or faith you can call either way, but here that faith has an extra embellishment of confidence, a firm faith. This confidence is a strong quality, because the faith could be like, yeah, I know Krishna exists, but I don't know if he will protect me. So here we know Krishna is there, and at the same time he will also protect me.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Prabhu?
Yes?
Yes. I think this is the true definition of faith, because regardless of what is happening in your life, we have to know, we have to be extremely sure that Krishna has ourselves. Krishna has our backs. No matter what we're going through, Krishna is with us. And even though when we're not behaving as we should be, doing things in the right way, Krishna is always with us. The thing is that we have to be grateful, and we have to do what we need to do, our prescribed duties, in order to please him, in order to be thankful, in order to correspond to his love.
True. So that is considered as confidence, this feeling that yes, Krishna is there and he will take care of me. So that feeling is called here as confidence, and it's actually a sign of faith also, but there is an extra quality of having that strong faith. Thank you, Prabhu, for putting this. So why have exclusive confidence in bhakti? So that Srila Prabhupada states, why to have an exclusive confidence in bhakti? Why not little bit follow Jnana Yoga, little Karma Yoga? Why not take help of multiple paths and make sure like I'm stable? Why only just take the risk of following one path? So Prabhupada is saying that to have, because the bhakti in itself is actually offers the highest perfection. So we don't need the other processes, because the perfection that is offered by bhakti is actually superior to everything else. No other process can offer that, which is love of Krishna. So Prabhupada makes this nice statement, because bhakti is the life, soul, and the desired goal and supreme perfection of life. So that is why this process is we need to have confidence in this process. And he says how the special protection that the process of bhakti offers. Even if we do a little and that carries forward to the next life, and Krishna considers it and then helps us to practice from wherever we left in the next life. So as devotees of the Lord, Krishna says, "Oh Arjuna, please promise that my devotee will never perish." So he takes an extra care. Bhagavad Gita says, "Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dveshyo asti na priyah ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya mayi te teshu chapyaham." So in the screen you see verse 9.31. Two verses before that, Krishna says, "I'm actually equal to everyone. Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dveshyo asti na priyah." I don't envy anyone. But if someone worships me with love, e bhajanti tu mam bhaktya mayi te teshu chapyaham. If someone worships me with love, then I am specially inclined towards them. So that is not considered partiality, because anyone and everyone is open to come to that position. Anyone can become a devotee of Krishna, and they can actually become the privileged, have the privilege of the protection of Krishna. It's open for everyone. In general, Krishna does not envy anyone and he is equal to everyone. But if somebody is a devotee, he offers a special protection. So that is why this process of bhakti is, we need to have the exclusive confidence in the process of bhakti, but because Krishna offers a special protection.
But also, Prabhu, sorry, but also I think bhakti is the only way through, the language barrier, but it's the only way we can be liberated through bhakti, because that is the ultimate goal, to be liberated.
Yeah.
Is it correct?
Actually, the goal of bhakti is not liberation from material world, rather it is actually developing love for Krishna.
Okay, but through that is how we get liberated, because as you said earlier, that is our main goal, right? Go back to Godhead.
Yeah, how Srila Jiva Goswami puts that is, he says, he gives an example. Oh, okay, I want to have sweet rice. So in those days they had a wooden fuel. So I go and then cook sweet rice, and then to make the fire, I feed in a lot of wood. At the end of the process, I also have some ashes that has come because of burning the wood. And after I offer the sweet rice and I honor it, I need to wash the container. So I take some ash and I can clean the container. So here he says, this is the process of bhakti, where the idea is to actually achieve love of Godhead, which is like making sweet rice. And the liberation is like the ash that comes up. He says, nobody thinks, I want some ash to wash containers, let me make sweet rice. Nobody does that. The process of liberation, we don't practice bhakti for the sake of liberation. How much it is absurd to cook sweet rice. Okay, what are you going to do? I need some ash. So for that, I'll make sweet rice. No one does that. It's an absurd thing to do. So similarly, he says, you don't need to actually worry about liberation when you're practicing bhakti. All you have to do is just, you want to love Krishna and you become a devotee of Krishna. Liberation just comes, follows you. You don't need to worry about that at all. So that is his take on the process of the goal of bhakti.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So the profit for that the bhakti can offer is forcibly drag to ultimate success. We all sometimes come to bhakti and then think, oh my God, I didn't know that. Like it's going to be like a journey. I have to go through a lot. So I feel like, oh my God, I feel I was not introduced to that. Sometimes I may think like that because I'm fallen. But I also understand it's an amazing process. The protection that Krishna gives is so valuable and so sweet and so sheltering. At the same time, because of my inability, I may sometimes feel, oh my God, why did I take up this whole thing? It's so laborious. But here Prabhupada is saying, even if we lack something, some ability, Krishna forcibly drags if we are sincere. If we turn to Krishna and say, Krishna, I want to be a devotee, I am unable to, please help me. Then if the prayer is sincere and we actually act upon the opportunities that Krishna offers us, then Krishna will forcibly drag us to ultimate success by taking care of our life personally. He takes the chariot of Arjuna. How he took the chariot of Arjuna in the Kurukshetra war, similarly, Krishna has taken charge of the chariot of all of our lives individually. He is not only Parthasarathi, he is not only the chariot driver of Arjuna, He is actually the chariot driver of all our lives. He is curating a special journey for everyone, and he's the driver of our chariot of our life. So we need to have that. And that is the profit of following exclusively Bhakti. Prabhu Rohan?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I just remembered something. I just wanted to make a comment on this point that how we are forcibly dragged to the ultimate success. So I remember Lokanath Maharaj giving this example that in the Kumbh Mela, when you're at the banks of the Ganges River, and it is very, very cold, and there's lakhs of people gathered on the banks, and when it's your turn to take the dip in the water, and you realize the water is so cold and you don't want to take the dip, there's so many people behind you, and you decide to back out, but you realize it is too late, and the people behind you, they push you in the water, so you're forcibly made to take a dip in the water. So similarly, at the time of death, even if you don't want to remember Krishna, we will be forcibly made to remember. So that is the power of Bhakti. Just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Just that this force is much more pleasurable than that force that I have experienced also sometimes. Yeah, so true. Krishna actually arranges for us devotees. We can read so many life of so many Srila Prabhupada disciples. They may have practiced for some time, and they actually, for various reasons, they might have strayed away. And then you see how Krishna takes special interest in their lives to actually bring back, because they served Srila Prabhupada, because they had at one point of time, Srila Prabhupada said, Hagri Prabhu, because you chanted Hare Krishna sincerely in the Vrindavan Dham, praying to Krishna to develop love for him, Krishna will never forget you. So we have knowingly, unknowingly prayed to Krishna at one point, yes, I want to surrender to you. And that is going to, Krishna is noting those prayers, and someday for sure Krishna will make sure that we are actually achieving that desire. And the process of bhakti is powerful. In the context here is, it cannot be terminated by any mundane cause or material interruption. Say, for example, tomorrow I lose my ability to speak. Many times when I can't chant, like when I don't have an interest to chant, I think like this: what if tomorrow actually I lose my ability to speak? How difficult it will be. Today I take it so granted. I speak so much unnecessary things, and then when it comes to chanting, I don't want to. But if say tomorrow I lose my ability to chant, so many times I think, oh my God, how difficult life will be, that you can't actually sing in kirtan, you can't chant the holy name. Even in that case, bhakti cannot be stopped. I can chant internally. And Niranjan Maharaj once actually recounted a pastime of a Srila Prabhupada disciple, this Mataji, whom he knew in the Boston temple, because he lived and served in the Boston temple earlier. She was such an amazing Vaishnavi, and everybody loved her. And he started preaching in Ukraine, Russia, and other places. And then he lost in touch with what's happening in this devotee. And after many years, he realized, oh, where is this Mataji? What is she doing? And he really wanted to, somehow Krishna was inspiring him to actually keep inquiring about this Mataji. And he really figured out where she was. She was in an old age home. So he actually thought, okay, I want to go and meet. When he went and met, the doctor said she has Alzheimer's, like some kind of a disease where she cannot remember anyone or anything. And still he insisted, I want to actually meet her. And she was brought out, and Maharaj was standing before her and sitting and trying to explain that who is he and how everything, and she could not recognize. And he thought, okay, let me just chant Hare Krishna to her, because she's not responding or recognizing. So he took his beads and he started chanting Hare Krishna. As soon as he started chanting Hare Krishna, he started chanting. She also started chanting with him. And the doctor said, the only thing she remembers or replies to is this thing. That's all. There is nothing else she remembers in life other than the Hare Krishna mantra, because this mantra is not from material memory. That's why Prabhupada says it's a natural function of the soul, that even though she has forgotten everything of this particular life, the interactions and people in this life, but she did not forget the Hare Krishna actually. So Maharaj was recounting in Prabhupada's disappearance day or appearance day as a Vyasa Puja, how he gave this eternal connection to every one of us. As souls, we are prone to so many material things, but how the spiritual process is so strong that this cannot be interrupted by any material cause, any mundane cause, that even if we lose our consciousness, it does not mean Krishna cannot liberate us. Because if we perform devotional service now, when things are beyond our material control, physical control, we are under Krishna's control. So we don't need to worry about things beyond our control. Rather, we need to involve or engage in bhakti with all the might that we can, with the confidence that Krishna will protect me come what may. Materially, I can be in any situation, but I need to have the faith that Krishna will protect me. So I felt that pastime of that Mataji was like very hope-giving, that Hare Krishna is deeply embedded in one's memory. It's not affected by a disease which takes away one's memory. And it's a productive path, because just by being a devotee, gradually we get refined as people. We have so many, I have my personal experience, we have so many bad qualities, still we might as we practice, but the more we become purified, all those qualities actually turn or transform into good qualities. We develop good qualities by the practice of bhakti. And we also have to endeavor to be good. That is also there. We don't need to think, oh, I practice bhakti, I don't need to be good. We also endeavor to be good. At the same time, bhakti also will make it easy. And pure, this process is pure because Prabhupada says how a devotee is not interested in any material activity. He loses attraction to material activities which contaminate one with sins. Purity is not in terms, here what is being meant is sins. Sins are impure, and devotional service purifies us of those contaminations. That is why this process of bhakti is called pure, because it is under internal energy. It is not under external energy, Maya, which causes us or which facilitates us being contaminated materially. But rather, by being under the internal energy, we become or remain pure. What is the time? Okay, let me finish this topic and then have a break for 10 minutes. Bhaktivinoda Thakur again says, Nishchaya is firm faith. We saw confidence. I answered to Paresh Prabhu's question also, what is the difference between faith and confidence? It's a strong faith. It's a firm faith, that is confidence. Understand Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojan through scriptural authority without doubts. Like it's not wrong to have doubts. We are not meaning that you should not have doubts, but actually getting clarified and having a confidence, not just having lingering doubts, which stops us from fully investing ourselves in devotional service. And doubts in 10 principal teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I'm sorry, we are not going into the 10 principles. It's called Dashamula Tattva. A whole book is written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so I won't be able to go into the details of it. But the main understanding is Vedas are the authority. Lord, the Supreme Lord Krishna is the ultimate supreme manifestation of the absolute truth, and so on and so forth. He gives 10 principles. But the ultimate thing is Vedas are the authority based on which we have 9 principles. That is called as Dashamula Tattva. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments on confidence or Nishchaya. He says bhakti free from doubt. Why? Because then I will not be reserved in practicing bhakti, because I don't have any doubt. I have full confidence that bhakti is the process which will actually protect me, which is my actual relationship with Krishna. If I have that conviction, then I won't hold myself back. I'll just fully throw myself into the process. That's why he defines Nishchaya as bhakti free from doubt. And he also calls it as firm faith that devotional service is the real goal of life, not karma, jnana or karma kanda. So this is almost we can see always Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's flavor is he compares bhakti with the other processes and defines the quality under discussion. And Srila Prabhupada's anecdotes on this, he says, when one becomes disappointed in his service to the Supreme Lord, that disappointment must be rejected and replaced with confidence in attaining the ultimate goal or love of God. Nishchayat, confidence, you should be assured that because I am following strictly the direction of my spiritual master and the Shastras, scriptures, certainly I shall meet Krishna personally one day. So in a lecture in Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada mentions, we need to have that confidence. One day I'll see Krishna personally. Even now as holy name, I'm meeting Krishna, but I'll be able to actually be in his physical presence because I strictly follow the directions of my spiritual master and Shastras. This is considered as a strong faith. So we will see Dhairya, the quality of patience, after a 10-minute break. It is 42. Hope to see you all at 3:52. Please be back on time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, could I ask a couple quick questions?
Yes, please.
So one, Olga was asking who is the Maharaj from that story, and I was curious as well. The one with the Mataji.
Following the chat, I can look at the chat. It is Niranjana Swami Maharaj.
Niranjana Swami. Okay, cool. And then my second question. So we're talking about how all the other paths are not permanent. My understanding, and I double checked on Vedabase, is that yogis can reach spiritual planets, and spiritual planets are eternal. So my question is, how is that not impermanent?
Yes. The understanding here is actually that the extra effect or the extra help that Krishna gives is not available to them. So then there is a chance of their falling down. It's all by their own strength. So in that, it is considered as like impermanent.
Okay, that's helpful. And I know that's still not the goal because we're not cultivating bhakti, because a lot of them are impersonal, end up in the material world anyways, and also that it's impractical in this age. But I was just curious. Thank you.
If they actually manifest, if they actually make it to the Vaikuntha planet, it's not going to be temporary or anything.
Okay, cool.
Also a valid process, but just that the endeavor on the individual is the predominant effort. It's rather than depending on Krishna. So in that perspective, it's like unsustainable or risky.
Okay, thank you so much.
So far, we are seeing the verse 3, and out of the 6 qualities, we saw about 2 qualities, which is utsaha, enthusiasm, and the second quality is nishchaya, confidence. In essence, utsaha is the endeavor executed with intelligence in Krishna consciousness is called as enthusiasm. So it is an activity, devotional service is an activity, and that is why enthusiasm has to be judged in terms of how much we endeavor in devotional service to for the pleasure of Krishna. Either it could be service or sadhana, but everything is done for the pleasure of Krishna. And confidence is confidence that if I perform my duties in general life, and if I perform my devotional service sincerely, then Krishna will protect me. So this is in essence, these 2 qualities. Now the third quality is dhairya, which is patience. So here it is said how one takes instructions from Guru, and with enthusiasm he applies himself to those instructions, and he has the confidence. But if he is not patient, if he just thinks it should happen immediately, the result should come very immediately, then he may become disheartened because it can take time. So Prabhupada gives this example of pregnancy. It takes like 10 months to have a child. It cannot just happen overnight. Similarly, devotional service also, we may be enthusiastically practicing, and we may have that confidence that Krishna will, this is the best path, but we may expect the results very quickly. So we may have confidence in the process of bhakti, and we may enthusiastically practice, but we also need to have patience, because sometimes or most times it takes time for most people. And depending on Guru and Krishna's mercy for results, it is I execute, but I don't think my executing things is the only cause of the results. It's both. We have to endeavor, and also we need to have Krishna's mercy. So Krishna's mercy has its own sweet will. So we need to know, and I have to put my efforts until Krishna becomes merciful. So we need to be patient for that. So that's why this quality is important. And it is said, Srila Prabhupada writes this, one must execute devotion service with patience, because he says, Prabhupada started this movement and immediately there was no success. He had to actually work for a long time in India, and then even after coming to the US, he had to wait for a year and a half to actually start having some kind of following. So he said single-handedly he was working even though there was no response, but he had the patience. And he says gradually everything happened. So that one should not be impatient in discharging devotional service. And we'll see why. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, patience has to be adapted as a support, an aid in devotional service. Why? Because nothing is going to happen overnight. So this quality will come as a support, an aid in devotional service. We will see explanation in the coming slides. He says not to become slack in one's devotional practices, even if there is delay in attaining the desired goal. Because if we expect immediate results and it does not happen, we may become slack. But if we have patience, we will not slack. And he says how to develop this patience. He says anyone who actually develops or controls the urges mentioned in the first verse, that person is called dhira. We saw the verse we memorized, like Vishaheta Dhiraha, one who actually tolerates these 6 urges is a Dhira. If someone becomes a Dhira, then naturally he develops Dhairya, which is patience. If a person is sober, he also becomes patient. So that's why he connects this verse to the first verse, saying, if someone actually properly tolerates the previously mentioned 6 urges in the first verse, that is favorable for his devotional service. Because if those urges are very strong, then it will be unfavorable. And also to subdue these 6 urges is called patience. It's both way. It's patient. If you are patient, you will achieve some amount of control, and if you control, you will achieve more patience. So as long as one has a material body, these propensities cannot be totally uprooted, but by appropriately engaging them, they no longer remain faulty. So we cannot completely avoid, we saw in the first verse, we cannot completely overcome all those things, but they need to be actually engaged properly in Krishna service. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains on this word patience or dhairya. He says if one has not yet attained Krishna seva, nevertheless engages in devotional service with patience, he has bhakti. So what does he mean by Krishna seva is the levels of bhava and prema, higher stages of devotional service. Even if he has not attained that, nevertheless he engages in devotional service. He engages in the sadhana. And he says, having this faith that other paths make me restless. Devotional service is the steady path, and having this faith is called as dhairya, he says, patience. It's not that just because it's not giving me result, I just jump to another path, thinking that, oh, maybe that will give me a quick result. And then from there, I jump to another path saying, oh, maybe that will give me a quick result. So just being patient with and sticking to devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada in one of his lectures says, immediately I become fully Krishna conscious and perfect. Does that happen? No. There may be so many imperfections because we are in an imperfect atmosphere. But patiently, if we go on executing our duties in devotional service as it is directed by the scriptures and by the spiritual master, then we should be rest assured that our success is guaranteed. And this is the way Srila Prabhupada says. And he says, Dhairyat means patience. Oh, I'm executing Krishna consciousness according to the rules and regulations. Still, I'm not yet perfect. So how can this be? I need to be perfect immediately. No, Prabhupada says, don't be impatient like that. Be patient, it takes time. So this is the discussion. Tat karma pravartana is practicing prescribed duties. I'll clarify the question that Agape asked in the beginning. What is this tat in the flow of this verses? First, let's see what Srila Prabhupada says about tat karma pravartana. He says chanting and following for regulative principles. This is the prescribed activity of a devotee. There is prescription, there is prohibition. Prescription is chanting Hare Krishna, and prohibition is not to engage in the 4 regulative principles. Both have to be followed, both prescriptions and prohibitions. And he says if someone neglects, then their devotion service will be destroyed, or it will be difficult to practice devotion service and keep up being a devotee. If he becomes slack in following any of them, his progress will certainly be checked. If not the devotion service is fully destroyed, at least the progress will be delayed. And Prabhupada says will certainly be checked, because it's not mechanical. Because Krishna consciousness works by Krishna's will also. So if we are sincere, then it works. If we are not sincere, then it takes time. So he says for sure the progress will be checked if one is slack. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur takes up the another meaning also for these words, tat. Prabhupada said about karma, prescribed duty, but he says there is, he takes another take, like what is this first tat and the second tat? He says there are multiple endeavors we need to do. Karma is endeavor, but these are endeavors by which bhakti flourishes, an endeavor by which one earns his livelihood and maintains his life in this world. So both are tat. The first tat refers to either way, bhakti flourish, the duties of bhakti in devotional service. The second tat refers to the duties one has as a human being living in this world to maintain his livelihood, to maintain his support his existence in this world. He needs to do certain things. So both one needs to perform. So engagement in prescribed activities which nourish bhakti. So that if you consider that meaning, then there are two rules under that. If you take the engagements in the bhakti, there are two types. One is vidhi, that Srila Prabhupada said, chanting Hare Krishna, and nisheda is the following the four regulative principles. So in this way, tat karma pravartana, according to Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, involves practicing the prescribed duties to maintain one's livelihood, which needs to be done. Otherwise, our devotional service can become unstable if we don't have the necessary material support. So practicing the necessary, endeavoring for the necessary material support is not wrong. That needs to be done by a devotee. And endeavor by which bhakti flourishes, that those endeavors also needs to be performed by a devotee. Both are included. But Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also says it differs for each ashram. A brahmachari, how he does, a grihastha, how he does these things may change, but everyone needs to balance these two things. And within that, within bhakti, there are two types of regulations. One is that we should chant and engage in 9 processes of devotional service, that is vidhi, that is called Vaidhi Bhakti. Vidhi means rules according to the scriptures, and nished is what is prohibited. So meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling, these are prohibited activities. So we don't do those things. So they both, following both, comes under this category of tat karma pravartana. So direction to give up one's own enjoyment and happiness for Krishna's sake is one of the prescribed restrictive rules. That because the sense enjoyment is my own enjoyment. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami very beautifully explains in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Atmendriya Priti Vansha means tendency to satisfy one's own senses is called as lust. Tendency to satisfy Krishna's senses is called as love. So there is a direction, clear direction to give up one's own sense enjoyment. Engaging in these activities of illicit sex, gambling, meat eating, and intoxication, they are actually for one's own enjoyment. That needs to be given up. Why? Because I am actually, my dharma is to give happiness to Krishna. If I engage my senses in these activities, when will I have time for engaging my senses in for Krishna's pleasure? So that is why it is a directive. And he also explains what are prescribed duties. So Srila Rupa Goswami has enjoined the system of tat karma pravartana, acting according to the regulative principles for those aspiring to perform devotional service. In the Upadeshamrita, activities by which pure devotional service is cultivated are called tat karma, prescribed duties. Means chanting, hearing. So they are the activities by which pure devotion is cultivated. So in that sense, you can consider tat karma as prescribed duties. And in another sense, he also mentioned it also includes the basic maintenance that we endeavor for. So engage according to qualification. He says, if a person is practicing Vaidhi sadhana or Raganuga sadhana according to their prescription, same Bhakti Vinod Thakur at different places writes different meanings. He says tat karma means prescribed. So for a Vaidhi sadhana bhakta, what is prescribed, he follows that. For a Raganuga sadhana bhakta, what is prescribed, he follows that. So that way also you can see this word. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says tat karma pravartana, or practicing prescribed duties, as engage in Krishna's service for his pleasure without resentment. Because why I have to give enjoyment to Krishna? I can enjoy this, and oh my God, I have to somehow or other please this guy. No, that kind of a resentment is not there. Naturally, one wants to give pleasure to Krishna, and engaging in Krishna's service with indifference towards karma, jnana, and anya bilash. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is very strong. He always speaks against karma kanda, karma and jnana processes. You will see in every quality he will bring in those aspects. because it is an aspect of devotion service, a natural detachment from these processes. So engaging in Krishna service with complete indifference, no care for other processes, that's also Tat Karma Pravartana. And Srila Prabhupada's anecdote on this: if one is serious in accepting a religious life or the path of salvation, he must adhere to the 4 basic rules and regulations. However sinful a man may be, if he receives knowledge from the proper spiritual master and repents his past activities in his sinful life and stops them, he immediately becomes eligible to return home back to Godhead. This is made possible just by following the rules and regulations given by the Shastra and following the bona fide spiritual master. So, what is the prescribed duty? To give up certain activities if it's told by Guru, giving them up, and if he asks us to follow something, following them. That is called as Tat Karma Pravartana. So, your prescribed duty is given by your Guru. Those who know the rules and regulations of the scriptures, but out of laziness or indolence, give up following these rules and regulations, are governed by the modes of material nature. If we give up the shelter of this instructions of spiritual master, because how do we situate ourselves under internal energy? By taking shelter of the instruction given by the spiritual master. When we follow that, we are under internal energy. When we neglect that, we are under external energy. That's how clearly we can understand. Am I under internal energy or external energy? Is if I'm following the rules and regulations given by my guru, I'm under internal energy. If I'm neglecting, I'm under external energy. That's how black and white it is to some extent. So before we go to the next quality, if someone has a question, sorry, I had minimized the window. I see 2 of you, Mother Nirali and Mother Shameshwari. Please go, because I didn't see who came first. So choose yourself.
Oh, Nirali can go. I just was making a simple comment because it sounds like this is referring to the railroad tracks, Satat Karma. There's that example of the railroad tracks, like we have to maintain both simultaneously for the train to move forward.
Yeah, it's a wonderful example. Thank you. That example is also given in terms of, that analogy is given also in terms of deity worship and Sankirtan. It is said like Pancharatrika and Nama Sankirtan. Yeah, thank you. Mother Nirali?
So thank you for using that too, because I'm taking a deity worship class. So it's like perfect timing. It was like very appropriate that you're using that example. So thank you. Sorry, Nirali.
That's okay. That's okay. I don't know if my question is really for this discussion, but it's something that's been on my mind, I guess. And so the idea of patience, you know, when you read about and you hear about, you know, the beginning of the movement, and a lot of disciples had left the movement, you know, because it was very strict and they couldn't follow, you know, the principles and things like that. And I think about like my own personal journey and other people's journeys where it's not like they're taking up chanting 16 rounds right away or doing anything like that. It's a very gradual kind of like slope. And so I wonder, you know, a lot of people left, but it's not that, I don't know, it's just interesting that, you know, when I think of it now, it's like, oh, just, you know, chant a fixed amount, do what you can, and gradually it'll come. But I don't feel like that's what happened back then. Like I'm trying to just reconcile in my brain how so many left when really couldn't they have stayed and done like less, you know, like, and then sort of they would have been purified slowly. It's just something that I was thinking about when we talk about patience, because patience is something that I struggle with, you know, so just didn't know if you could address that.
Yeah, it's quite difficult to understand why a person goes through or what they do, because it's lifetimes of story. It's not just like what meets the eye. There's so much more in everyone's life. And the only faith we have is like, if we are sincere devotees to whatever extent we could be, and Krishna protects us, because none of us can make sure our journey is actually how it is going to be or anything. But our faith is like Krishna is watching over us and is our best friend, is our well-wisher. So he's going to arrange everything that is best for us. So yeah. And we have seen in many cases individually and in others cases like how Krishna actually brings back and arranges things in such a way that they can come back and practice, or even he just arranges for them maybe in the next life for sure.
Okay.
In the sense, like, did I reflect on what you said? What did I do?
I don't know. I guess it's in my, like, I'm just thinking about, and probably not maybe the conversation for today. So I'm sorry. Yeah, that's helpful though.
Thank you. So far, we discussed two qualities, which is nishchaya, which is patience, and tatat karma pravartana, that is following one's prescribed activities. So in terms of patience, because if someone is just very enthusiastic and he may be even confident that bhakti is the best path, and he or she just fully throws themselves in the process, but if they are not lacking patience, so then they can become slack or they can become disheartened, because the results are not always going to come very quickly. So that's why it's important to have patience. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's insight is, if one is patient, he will follow control the six urges, and the more one controls those six urges and engages in devotional service, they'll become more sober. It's like a feedback loop again. And for Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentioned how, like, not having indifference to other paths and having a steady faith in Krishna, even if it is not immediately giving results, is considered patience. So if there are no questions on this topic, we can go ahead with the next one, which is Sangha Tyaga, and then we will see Sato Vritti. Okay, Sangha Tyaga means, we already saw in the last verse something related to this, which is Jana Sangha. Jana is, as I explained in the previous class, Jana is general people, Sangha is association. We also know this famous word Sat Sangha. So association with people who give us something permanent. Sat is permanent. So here it is Sangha Tyaga. So what kind of Sangha Tyaga means? It's not devotee give up as devotee association. This Sangha is the Jana Sangha, which was mentioned in the previous verse. So Jana Sangha is the unfavorable association. So giving up that unfavorable association is considered a favorable activity for devotional service. So giving up the association of non-devotees. So here Srila Prabhupada in his purport writes, avoiding the followers of other paths, karmis, jnanis and yogis. Asat Sangha Tyag e Vaishnavachar. So Prabhupada mentions this verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, where once when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asked, how do I know who is a Vaishnava? What is the symptoms of a Vaishnava? Then he says, one who actually gives up the association of worldly people and takes the association of devotees, he is considered a Vaishnava. So he defines Vaishnava in terms of, in various classifications of a Vaishnava is there. One of it is the kind of association we keep, because generally it is said, we are the kind of association we have. So following in that principle, if someone takes the association of a devotee, then he can be considered a Vaishnava. So it can also be called Sangha Siddha, means you achieve perfection through your association. And if that is the case, then live in the company of devotees. As Narottam Das Thakur says, okay, I give up the association of them, but I'm a social animal, I need some company. So Bhakti Narottam Das Thakur is saying, Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanevas. Worship the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord in the association of devotees, and worship their lotus feet also. Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanevas. Live in the association of devotees. So this is what is being shared by Srila Prabhupada on this topic of Sangha Tyaga. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, giving up bad association and giving up association with these three people. Sorry, my pointers are messed up. There are three categories below the second point. Irreligion, giving up association with irreligious people, sensual relations and those who are attached to such people, non-devotees, sense enjoyers, mayavadis, atheists and dharmadvajis. That sounds a lot. It's literally the rest of this. So he's just so giving up association of all these people. And what is association? We will see in the next week. It's a big topic. The whole understanding of what it means to associate. Because how is it possible to give up association with most of these people? Because on our day-to-day lives, we have to deal with. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur clearly writes in the next verse. So we will go into what is association, why to associate, how to associate, where to associate, all these topics in the next week. That is the fourth verse. And I'm not sure how legible this chart is. This is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes. It is Asat Sangha, means association which leads us to a temporary destination. There are two types. One is association that we have with others, and the internal things that we have, attachment. We cannot always shoot others saying these are all bad association. We also have certain things inside us. So he addresses both. One is the external association, which could be non-devotees, or association that we make for physical enjoyment with other people and people who are attached to physical enjoyment. And these non-devotees could be these 7 categories we saw in the previous slide. In this slide, mainly, we are seeing how this Asat Sangha also can be the attachment that we have in our hearts. We have some attachment to objects, subtle or gross. I want to possess more things or certain things, and either it is subtle or it is gross. And thoughts, I have a certain attachment to certain kind of thoughts, like certain kind of opinions, certain kind of inclinations, which could be due to this life association or past life association, because that becomes a natural inclination. Some people may be attracted to things which are not favorable for devotional service due to past life inclinations, which is coming so deep from inside that we see that is coming from a past life. So when we see that, which is like overpoweringly there, if we can engage it in Krishna service, yes. Say if someone is an artist and it's fine to engage it in Krishna service, use it to make one's living, it's not a problem. But if it just takes them away from the practice of devotion service, then it is not, it is a considered a attachment, which is Asat Sangha. Then one needs to distance themselves. Because I know once, I don't want to take names because all of us know these devotees very closely. So this is a very famous devotee. He is a famous writer now. And he was once a guitar player, he was regularly playing and he was attending various concerts. And then he met another devotee who was running a punk rock band. And then he was mentioning him that how once he was actually a guitar player. And he said, I can't believe you that you are such an artist. Then come join my band and do some shows with me. He said, no.
Was he shelter?
Hare Krishna. So he was saying like, no, I don't want to do. And he was saying, then why are you guys, like, you are encouraging me to do, I'm running a rock band. You are saying that is devotional service. But when I ask you to come and play with me, you are saying no. He says, you can engage in Krishna service, but I don't have the ability because I'll get carried away by that thing if I engage in it. That's why I want to keep my distance from it. I'm not saying I cannot, no one can engage guitar playing skills in Krishna service. He says, I cannot engage because if I get into it, it will take me too far. So that's why I want to stay away from it. So it is like it's a personal reflection. It's not that certain things cannot be engaged in devotional service. We just need to know, am I able to engage it in Krishna service? That's all. And if we can't, and if we are honest, and if we understand I can't engage this, I can't handle this, the ability to stay away from it, that shows one's sincerity. So that is actually Sangatyag. He has done a subtle Sangatyag, which the world cannot see. But he is such an amazing guitar player, but he said, no, I can't do this because it will take me away from Krishna. So that is sincerity. So that's an example for an attachment I could give. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I'm not just being like, just putting it out because it's coming to my mind. I could have just stick to Srila Prabhupada's purport, but I don't know. I just collected these informations and I added to the slides, but now I see it has become too bulky. All these things may not come in your exams or something, but it can help us understand the topic more deeply. That's why I thought of including them. So if you are feeling there's too much here, apart from the book, please stick to the book. And that's why I pass out separate notes and mind maps, all those things. That it's self-explanatory and kind of like enough for exams actually. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, Bhakta is one who completely gives up non-devotee association and stays in devotee association. If you trace this, it's coming from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's definition of who is Vaishnava, one who gives up Asat Sangha. And he says there are 3 types of devotees or kinds of devotees. Practice according to one's eligibility, not exhibit activities of others' eligibility, and one should understand jnanis, karmis, etc. to be fools bewildered by worldly enjoyment and give up their association. This is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Simha Guru is like strong. So only devotee association is desirable. So these are the points that he makes. Who are the 3 kinds of devotees? We will see next week. You might already know Uttama, Madhyama, and Kanishta. These 3 kinds of devotees. There is going to be an elaborate discussion next week on those topics. But for now, he understand the 3 kinds of devotees. Practice according to your eligibility. Don't imitate others. And keep away from people like jnanis, karmis, and materially attached people, because that will lead to unfavorable results in our devotional service. And he says the only desirable association is devotee association. These are the thoughts of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And we have
Prabhu,
yes.
You've got like 4 questions lined up right now.
Okay, where are they? Are they in the chat?
No, they're hand raised.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But while I've got your attention, I just want to say I'm glad you added all this other stuff from Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhakti. I know my Siddhanta Saraswati. Anyways, I love it because like I study the books a lot, and so it's nice getting a richer view. I know it might seem like a lot of information, but I just want to encourage that you did that. I really appreciate it.
Yes, don't stop.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. So before I take the questions, let me just complete these anecdotes of Srila Prabhupada and then I'll take. So Asadhu Sangha, those who are not devotees, if you mix with them, then whatever you have learned, you will forget. Their influence is so bad. Because we are not very strong, therefore there is every possibility that whatever we learn in bad association, we may forget. So this is Srila Prabhupada's thoughts on this. And this is an amazing one. I really love this. Even if there is little inconvenience living in the association of devotees, don't give up the association of devotees. Because we all know when we have false ego, it could be very difficult to tolerate the association of devotees sometimes. But he says, even if there is a little inconvenience, don't give up the association of devotees, because that is where our fortune actually lies. Sometimes Maya tricks us to think, oh, this is the problem, but that's where the real fortune of our lives is lying. And that is where we have actually acquired our devotion service, through these devotee association. So we should not shoot ourselves in our legs by just thinking, oh, I just can't handle this association. So I think these are the, I can take the questions. Who wants to go first? I see 4 hands raised. Olga?
Thank you. My question is, what is it that you think Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would say about association with other Vaishnavas from other sampradayas?
I don't have a clear anecdote which I can really support, but surely association means, say for example, if you go to another place, like another sampradaya like Shri or Madhva sampradaya or somewhere, and you go take deities darshan, you go on Dham Yatra, and you exchange affection because they also are worshippers of Krishna or Vishnu, and respecting them, that's not a problem. But are we going to, because there is rasa difference, like they may have a certain mood towards Krishna, so whose mood you want to follow, it's better to hear from them about the confidential things. Associating may be in various levels. The real association is you hear from guru or devotees and follow it in your lives. That should be, that we should stick to one place. It could be anything, but if we choose that, it's better to choose one and stick to it, because there is flavor differences. Say for example, you go to a shop, ice cream shop, there may be vanilla, there may be like a strawberry, there was like mango ice cream. All are ice creams. You will either choose one of them. There is no point in mixing all of them and trying to eat. Like then you don't really feel a clear flavor. So similarly, all are Vaishnavas, but still you choose one flavor and keep to it. Then it makes you more focused. Did I answer your question, Olga?
Yes, thank you.
Then Kelly.
Hi. Sorry, I just had a question. So
My question was like, if you go, because I'm younger, so I'm like going to school and going to college, and I want to take shelter like under those who, like if I'm going, because I want to be an engineer, and to take shelter under those who know engineering better than I do, but they're not a devotee. Am I supposed to like, I don't understand, like, am I not supposed to associate with them even though they know better about like a career I'm trying to pursue? I'm just confused on that.
Personally, also in my life, I can give from my life, but like better examples also are there. Like Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, they worked under a Nawab. So for professional reasons, for educational reasons, what is association? Next week we will see. Proximity is not association, but and these are dealings that we need to do in this world. So that is not considered association. Where your heart lies, like what is the goal of your life? That which association defines that? So is their opinion defines your goal of life, or Prabhupada's opinion defines the goal of your life? So that is where you're actually associating. Otherwise, we all have to come in touch with various people in the course of our lives. And while studying, while working, we all have to be continuously in touch with various people. That's nothing wrong. But if you really like love them so much that just to please them you're giving up your practice of bhakti or something like that, that is considered unfavorable. It should not become so like your emotions cannot be so much involved that you give up your practice of bhakti for being with them or dealing with them.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Don't worry, we all also, like, I'm not sure many of them, I also came to bhakti while I was like 17, 18, like studying in college. So if you have a strong faith personally, and then you keep up your practice, and you're from an amazing devotee family, so you're surrounded by devotees, just do your duties sincerely. Other things Krishna will be protecting.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
Mother Indira, then Mother Shameshwari, then Mother Shilpi.
So my question was, can you go back to the slide where you had a satsanga on there?
Okay. It has to come up. It's not coming. This one?
There. Yeah. So what does a satsanga mean? I'm getting confused.
Sangha is association.
Yeah.
Asat is temporary.
Oh, okay.
Here it means like it's not a temporary association. It is an association which pushes us into temporary, that is material. Material is temporary, spiritual is permanent. In that sense, this Sangha which actually forces us into the temporary material world, that is Asat Sangha. Or keeps us in the material world, that is Asat Sangha.
Okay, thank you.
Mother Shameshwari?
Okay, I hope I'm not getting us off track too much, but when we're talking about Jana Sangha, I can't help to think of the word Jana, because one of my friends is Jana Vatsala. So what is Jana mean?
Jana means people. Like Burida Jana, gopis pray Burida Jana, and here it is, this place it is Jana Sangha, or various places we Bhakta Jana, Sanghe. So means Jana means generally people. So here in the Jana Sangha, it means common people. Krishna is called as Jana Ardhana, one who protects people or one who kills people. Anyway, you can just manipulate the word. Jana means generally people.
Oh, okay, so then Jana Vatsala, that means
what is his name? I really didn't get it.
Jana Vatsalya.
Jana Vatsalya.
Mm-hmm.
Jana Vatsalya means loving people.
Okay.
Yeah, means I need to really written form. I need to see what it could mean. But just by hearing it as Jana Vatsalya, Vatsalya is like affection, parental affection. Jana Vatsalya is parental affection to people in general, might be.
Okay. So I thought there was maybe a difference in the diacritic. I was thinking
we have to see that.
I'm looking on Database, and with a long A, Jana is know or you know.
Oh, that's coming from Bengali or Hindi. root. Jana means is like knowing. That is jnana, jana. This is jana. Like Janardana or Bhakta Jana or Sangha. Like it's a different, it's Jana is actually following or people, anyway it can mean.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so I think because in this context, I think it made it sound like it was like a bad thing, like, but it's just like, but in this sense, it's like common people, but like not devotees.
Depends on the context how you use. Bhakta Jana means devotee followers.
Okay.
So it depends on the context we use.
Yeah, I see. Okay, thank you.
Mother Shilpi?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu. So this is not exactly a question, but probably if you can share some of your experiences. So when we talk about giving a bad association, right, and we use the word bad, or we use the word atheist, or these kind of words, they are very, very strong. So when devotees talk like giving up association, it comes out a little bit too strong in a way that we start putting ourselves on a higher ground, or we feel that we are holier than thou, or putting the other person down. The so um, Even Krishna, when he was explaining in chapter 16 in Bhagavad Gita about divine and demoniac nature, right? He not even once talked about Duryodhana as demoniac. He just talked about natures. He did not label anyone in that as divine or as demoniac. He was just talking about qualities and not people. So he was not labeling people there. But we as humans, it is because of our imperfections. Usually, when we look at bad association, we start labeling people. So and at the end of the day, everyone is a devotee. It's just that some of us are probably some of us are probably running, some of us are walking, some of us are crawling, and some of us have probably not even started. So how can we keep that balance in our minds, so that that these, it's just that I don't have to associate with them, but they are also devotees. They are not devotees in this life, and visibly they are not devotees, but they are. They are there. So can you please explain a little bit, how do you maintain that balance in your mind or in your interactions? Or
Okay. It's a perfect question for as a prelude for the next week's discussion. This topic, what you're asking, exactly is the topic of the next week. So we will go in detail in the next week. Bhakti Thakur and Srila Prabhupada and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given like various insights on this topic. What is association? What is bad association? And all these topics are very nicely described. And for the fourth verse, in general, if we can be like compassionate to people, it's the quality of a Madhyamadikari. If he sees somebody is very antagonistic, he doesn't go speak to them about Krishna or push them too much, because not that he hates them, he wants to keep away, but because they may offend. They may offend devotees, they may offend Lord because of their anger. So not wanting them to offend the Lord more, we don't speak to them. But if we see somebody is sincere and someone can take to bhakti, we are compassionate to them. In general, how your compassion manifest should be in a way that can help that person devotionally. If keeping away from them helps them and you devotionally, that is the best thing. If approaching them and encouraging them or sometimes even pushing them will help them, so then that is better to do. So the heart should be in a place where, how can I serve others? If we have that attitude, how can I serve others better, then we will know what to do in the right with that given person and given circumstances. Krishna will give us the intelligence. What we need to make sure is, do I have in the core of my heart, how can I serve this person?
yes, thank you so much, Prabhuji. And also wanted to share that we were also sailing in the same boat at some point in time. So I think that also brings a lot of humility. That probably not in this life, but in previous lives we were there too.
Even in this life, actually.
Yes. I can speak for myself that I was there in this life too. I was not following the four regulative principles. I was eating meat and so yeah, definitely.
And also, because the current political atmosphere is about liberal and being right and like being so, we don't need to be in the name of sensitivity. We don't need to say everybody is right. At the same time, we don't need to go out on the streets like some people do, that you're going to hell, you're a demon. We don't need to show placards to people also. So we need to know what is good for our spiritual lives, and we need to keep it up. And while dealing with others, we have to do what is good for their spiritual life.
Yeah. So, Prabhu, one more question there. So, if you find someone talking like that, right? You know, some leaders around you, whenever they address people, they address so strongly as if they're looking up on themselves and looking down upon non-devotees or people who are not part of ISKCON. So, is there a way, you know, to kind of, how to say it, like to neutralize the verbiage that is being used outside?
Next week, we are going to discuss on this more detail also. So just to give a context for that, I would say when a teacher or a person in a position of a teacher to give instruction, if he speaks strong words, that is to shatter our illusion. Because if you see in the chart on the screen, there is internal attachment that we have. I myself is a non-devotee to a certain extent in my own heart. So hearing those words, we should see he is actually speaking to me, the non-devotee in my heart, the non-devotional attachments that I have. He is actually speaking to me to this to actually dispel my illusion in my own hearts and attachment. So I should not see I am a devotee and somebody is a non-devotee. I can see myself having certain non-devotee inclinations. So I can see this devotee is actually speaking to me, addressing me, the inclination of me. So how can I actually give up those things, and how can I not be attached? And also hearing strong words may be very unpalatable, because sometimes this attachment is within ourselves. We also see ourselves being attacked on in one way internally. At the same time, hearing these strong words can make us feel detached from those things. So it serves many purposes. If a person in the position of a teacher or an instructor shares a strong message, we should take that is for our personal good. But how we deal with outside world. So if you see the same devotee, the advanced devotees, when they deal with people, they'll be very, very generous. Srila Prabhupada, he spoke about Mayavadis very, very strongly. But when he met them, he was very courteous. He was loving. He externally, he wasn't behaving like you are like rascals or anything like that. He may write and he may speak in his own group, but when he actually spoke to people one-on-one, he never actually did anything which was like never Prabhupada behaved in a improper manner. And even if he did, he as an elderly person could do certain things. So it takes a lot of refined understanding how to deal with people. But when we hear teachers speaking strongly, we should know that is for our own benefit that they are speaking. We don't need to come always politically right, even in the close association of devotees. Because the current mood the mood of the whole world today is like you have to be politically right always. But sometimes the teachers have to tell the naked truth. The naked truth may not be always politically correct. So just for our own benefit, to shake us out of our illusions, sometimes some people have to speak the truth without all the embellishments. So we should take that, okay, if they are actually telling for my good, let me just take it. But if in action, some people manifest like that in an immature way, if we can do something to change that, it's fine. For at least we should know what is the right way to deal with other people in a matured way to deal with other people.
What would be kind of the difference, like in which we can distinguish, like either avoiding the idea of being politically right, but also like not trying to be inclusive? I think that sometimes there can be a question or a problem of just like keeping maybe too much to like the almost old ways of teaching and not actually trying to like make the knowledge or make the approach accessible to the audience. So like I'm kind of struggling between two ideas, because I can understand how Prabhupada sometimes too, especially, speaks very strongly, and I can understand that this also for the benefit of the speaker, but at the same time, like, what about like speakers or like teachers who sometimes maybe just transgressing those sensitivities, or not recognizing them in their speech?
It's, say for example, it always takes one to understand another person. So if somebody is a senior, we really don't know in what mood they are speaking. So we may hear from many people who are you actually following is ones whose teachings you actually want to implement in lives and take close guidance. That is the siksha. There is generic siksha, there is focused siksha teachings. So you should not be we should not be generally concerned about what any devotee is saying in the moment, because we can be just concerned about everything. We can make everyone correct. So we cannot get overwhelmed with this, oh, this person is not doing this, that. We just have to also have a small circle of influence. If we work rightly in that circle of influence, then our circle of influence will increase. There will always be in this world a huge circle of concern. So there's no point in worrying about it because you don't have influence there. So what you can do is take guidance from the mature people whom you think are mature, and there should be some credibility to that, your judgment also. Plus try to follow that in your own personal lives. By your inspiration, others can follow. If they are wrong, they will also change. And in terms of teacher speaking strongly, yes, Srila Prabhupada also speaks very strongly, but if you see his mercy, he extended his mercy to everyone. Did I even like...
Yeah, that's very clear. Thank you.
So there is a last one, which is Sato Vritte. We have to finish that before 5. Sato Vritte in combination becomes Sato Vritte, but the actual word is Sataha and Vritti. Sat is actually, you can say, people who are eternal, means who are situated in the eternal energy, spiritual energy, or the acharyas. Vritti is following in their footsteps. So Sato Vritti, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. Srila Prabhupada says, execute the principles given by the previous acharyas. Mahajano yena gataha supanta. So Prabhupada quotes these words many times. Following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. That is the only way we can execute devotional service. There are so many philosophies in this world. There is so many scriptures in this world. There are so many opinions in this world. But what do we dedicate our lives for? We can only dedicate it to one. And that one should be what the Mahajanas have stated as the right one. So we choose that and we follow. So Prabhupada says, fill your time with Krishna conscious activities by following morning program and various other things. Srila Prabhupada says, by this way, by following the principles that the acharyas have given, then we are actually following the footsteps of the devotees, previous acharyas. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, behavior and lifestyle of a saintly person, one follows that. By association, understands what is the behavior and lifestyle of the saintly persons. We also start to take up that. Bhaktivinoda Thakur takes sadhu vritti as sadachar, means saintly conduct. Okay. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, following in the footsteps of acharyas means following in the footsteps of devotees in life or in death. There is, while living and in my destination after the life, I only follow the devotees. I only aspire for the destination that the devotee aspires. While living also, I aspire for those things which the devotee aspires, following in the footsteps in life and death. I'll come to explain this also soon, more in detail in the next slides. Follow honest and saintly people. He says, don't follow anyone and everyone, follow honest and saintly people. And if you remember in the introduction to these 6 qualities, I said they are all like kind of an positive alternatives to the previous verse. So in the previous verse, what was the last quality?
Laulyam.
Yes, laulyam. So we said that laulyam could also mean fickle-mindedness, not being fixed in one path, sometimes jnana, sometimes yoga, like that. If you see this particular quality is a positive alternative to that means don't go different places, follow in the path of the Mahajans, fix. Don't go here, don't go there, just follow. In life or in death, follow in the footsteps of the devotees. So that is the idea by which we can overcome the fickle-mindedness of the mind, desiring sometimes some profit and going to different paths, rather fixing oneself in the path given by Mahajanas, following in the footsteps of devotees in life and death. So this is how Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that. And Srila Prabhupada says one has to follow in the footsteps of previous authorities in the line of disciplic succession. Otherwise, even the most intelligent men will be bewildered regarding the standard actions of Krishna consciousness. This is actually a translation of the Mahabharata verse. Tarko pratishto shutayo vibhinna nasa prishiryasya matam na bhinnam mahajano yena shutayo vibhinna. I'm forgetting the verse. Mahajano yena gatasupanta is the last line. Third line I forgot. So in that verse it is said, even if a very great intelligent person, but he will also get bewildered because so many scriptures, so many opinions, so many paths. What will he follow even if he's an intelligent man? If he just sets out to analyze on his own strength, he can, or he might or he might not end up in the right place. So it is better to follow in the footsteps of the Mahajanas, previous authorities. It is an easy path. One who is following in the footsteps of the Acharya, he knows everything. He says even if a devotee is not so well versed currently, but if he just follows the instructions of the previous Acharyas, they ask me to chant, they ask me not to follow the follow these 4 regulative principles, I just do it. If only that person has that much faith, gradually he will come to know everything. So following the previous Acharyas is the main qualification. And Prabhupada, this is about all the qualities. It's not just about satovritti. Enthusiasm, patience, firm conviction, which is nishchaya, following the rules and regulations, dealing straightforward, that is tat karma pravartana, no duplicity, and in association of devotees. If you can keep these 6 principles always in front, then your progress in Krishna consciousness is sure. There is no doubt about it. So this is about the whole verse. It's not just about satovritti. If we follow these prescriptions of Srila Rupa Goswami, Prabhupada says our progress in Krishna consciousness is sure. And these 6 principles, one must be very enthusiastic. Yes, in this life I shall complete my Krishna consciousness business. I'll not wait for the next life. This life I shall finish. This is called utsahan. The area means patience. Not that sometimes I do not find that I'm making much improvement, but still you should have patience. And nishchayat, with confidence, because we are following the standard rules and regulations, success is sure. That confidence must be there. Just like 2 + 2 = 4, that is a fact. Similarly, if you follow the principles as laid down in the Shastras, then success is sure. So these are some of the thoughts on the verse in general and those particular 6 qualities. So the learning objectives designed for this session, or we try to make the slides in this to address these 3 things. One is explain in your own words. At the end of this discussion, you should be able to explain in your own words the 6 favorable activities given in this verse 3, with reference to some examples, analogies, and additional quotes given in Srila Prabhupada's purports. Explain the meaning of key terms from the verse 3 of Upadeshamrit, and also discuss your plans for applying points particularly relevant for you in your lives that we couldn't discuss because of the time, but you can give a thought about, okay, what quality I can work on which can help me more in my devotional service. Some kind of a reflection on this session. All those is the learning objectives of the session. So hope you got some for each terms. Utsaha is enthusiasm, that is enthusiastically endeavoring in devotional activities. Nishchaya is confidence that bhakti is the process, and if I practice it, I'll be achieving the success. Dhairyat is patience, even if it takes time because of various reasons. For lifetimes we have had conditionings, still not giving up and just continuing to follow the process. Tat karma pravartana is executing the prescribed activities sincerely. And Sangha Tyaga, giving up unnecessary association with things, objects, and our own internal attachments. Everything is a bad Sangha. And Satovritte is following in the footsteps of the previous Acharyas. So these 6 qualities, if someone does sincerely, then their devotional service will grow. That is what is Srila Rupa Goswami is stating in this verse. So, Hare Krishna, thank you for staying for such a long session. Thank you very much. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna. If you have any questions, we can take. Otherwise,
Yes, I have one question.
yes, Prabhupada.
Can you please go back to the presentation?
Okay.
To the yes.
Learning.
Yeah, a couple of them behind.
Okay.
No. No. Yes, that. So when explain to me, please, the phrase "take sadhu vritti as sad achara."
Sadhu can also be seen as a behavior, right? Vritti is behavior also. Sadhu vritti is the conduct of a sadhu. So who is a sadhu? That means he has proper behavior. Sadachara means proper behavior.
Okay.
So sadhu vritti can be me trying to follow a sadhu.
Okay.
Or me behaving like a sadhu. It could be
okay. Perfect. Okay, thank you very much.
Adarya Goranga Prabhu?
Yes, Hare Krishna. One of the quotes here, Prabhupada, was that you had listed there was that we need to finish the business this life, this Krishna consciousness. So I was just thinking, what is that business that we should finish? Because in terms of material sense, like this person wants to go to engineering, they can do business of an education, is engineering, is a bachelor's degree, master's degrees, even PhD, but that's completion of education, and that's the business. So in the sense of Krishna consciousness, how is that when we finish the business, we're successful? What is that like? How do we know it's completed, this life? We know for sure it's complete without waiting for next life. What is that indication?
You'll be with Krishna serving him personally in the spiritual world. Then you know your business in the material world is completed.
Oh, we have to die for that to know. We don't know before we leave the body.
No, even now, gradually say, for example, in the core of our hearts, we actually eagerly want to chant more, want to serve devotees, want to hear our emotions for personalities like Srila Prabhupada, our own spiritual master. If it is increasing, bhakti is a process. Nobody needs to certify your advancement. It is your own heart. You can see like how much you want to become a devotee and feel like unqualified for this great gift and have developing all these qualities that Krishna says in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Adveshta sarva bhutanam karuna maitreya vacha, means having compassion to everyone, becoming non-envious of others. So it's not just chanting 64 rounds or these things, but this also should translate it to a heart which is just people should love us just because we are amazing people. Like Prabhupada said, my devotees will be known as gentlemen. So all these things gradually manifest, and success is in this life also. Just practicing Krishna consciousness is success. But what Prabhupada means is like having that thing that it's both. When we are in sadhana bhakti, we need to think, I need to get out of this world. But the more we become advanced, we pray like how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prayed, whether I'm here, whether I'm there, anywhere, or Mukundamala Sutra Kulashekara prays, Naham Vande Charanayor, means he says, I'm not aspiring for anything like destroying my karmic reactions. I'm not aspiring for heavenly planets. I'm not aspiring for anything. If you have to give me karma for what I have done, I don't care. If you have to suffer, enjoy, if I have to go here, hell, heaven, I don't care. All I want is just, I want to be a devotee of yours. So that is a stage which a person naturally develops as he performs by the sadhana and then becomes a raganuga. It is a natural feeling. All I want is Krishna. I don't care what happens to me, whether I'm here or there. But for practicing devotees, they cannot just think, oh, I'm okay in New York. So because maybe our feeling is attachment to New York, who knows? So we should probably like safely think, I need to go to the spiritual world. But the more we become advanced, wherever we are, that is spiritual world. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Moramana Vrindavan, means wherever a pure devotee is, he carries Vrindavan along with him. Unless we come to that stage, we should aspire to go to Vrindavan. because for us it is a different destination. For Uttam Adhikari, next week we are going to discuss. For him, his eyes are only seeing Vrindavan even now. If I'm seeing New York, I'm not seeing Vrindavan, then better I go to Vrindavan.
Thank you. Yeah, I just don't want any unfinished business here, so I just want to make sure.
I hope I also feel like that. Yeah. So, yes, 4:58. I would like to always finish before time so that I have the satisfaction of not torturing people until the last minute. So, thank you very much. If there are no questions, Mother Amal Gopi, yes.
So, Prabhu, this is a question and follow-up to Olga's question about association with different Vaishnava Sampradayas. For instance, your family coming from different Sampradaya, you follow certain traditions like reciting Arva's poems every day. Not just traditions, also you're an attachment because you've been doing that from young age. So how do you see that? So we continue both, or we just what do we do in that case?
Okay.
And also the attachment for different like Vishnu forms.
Yeah. Not everybody is fortunate to have this problem. So it's, first of all, it's a good problem. It's not a difficult, it's not a bad problem. But in detail, sometimes it can be, it's emotions are involved, right? Because like we are coming from a certain tradition, we grew up with some things. So I have heard from other devotees who are like strong, their family is still like initiated in other sampradayas, and they are the only ones who are like initiated here and all those things. It's 5 o'clock. The thing is, like, we know they are also following a standard path, and if they are accepting, as long as they are like completely antagonistic or something, not like that, if they are okay for us following, it shouldn't be a big issue, and offering some worship is not a problem. At the same time, where is our heart? Because if you see, Gopal Bhatta Goswami is coming from Sri Rangam, and his parents are like worshippers. So it's not a problem where we come from. At the same time, once we take shelter of a certain process, then we have a certain mood. So then that mood will naturally give us some difference and distance. But a worship should not be a problem. Say, for example, you have deities given by your parents, and you have been worshipping in some way. You also worship now Gaura, Radha Krishna, and along with that, you can offer a worship along with those deities. But you pray to those deities also to have love for Krishna.
Like, for instance, reciting Arva's poems,
Yeah, like Tirupavai or something like that.
Also, yeah, the 4,000.
Yeah, they are not like out of line or anything like that. It's just like sometimes you like to hear because you grew up hearing Vishnu Sahasranam or Venkatesh Suprapatham or Tirupava and all these things. Once in a while we can hear, but surely they should be more like a pickle. The main meal should be like the practice that we are trying to do now.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, if there are no questions, thank you very much. I'll post the notes for the next week. I've already started posting. Please look at the classroom regularly. And that's where I'm going to post all the notes. Sometimes I may not post them on the WhatsApp group. So I'm like dividing the whole thing about based on weeks. Week 1, what we saw, week 2, what we saw. So if you have any problem in accessing the classroom, please let me know. I'm trying to keep all the things in the classroom except the video links. So if I post some videos, I'll post in the WhatsApp group. Otherwise, everything is in the classroom. Please refer there. And thank you all for taking the effort. I know it's not easy amidst all the responsibilities to take out 3 hours and patiently listen to a monologue and then go study, memorize, and do all these things. I'm very grateful you're all taking the efforts. So it's very encouraging and inspiring for me in my own devotion service also. So thank you for all the association.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Thank
you.
Hare
Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
You're amazing, Prabhu. Thank you